Tonight on Joynews, Prime Electoral Commission defends its decision to continue the ongoing voters' ID card registration exercise across the country amidst the coronavirus pandemic, insisting the commission might as well suspend the December 7 polls.
If we ask the questions, should we stop? Then I think we should also put aside and go to bed and say that the election should not come on the 7th and that it should be postponed one more year.
Government describes as complete falsehood claims by the Peasant Farmers Association that 90% of the dams constructed for irrigation can only be used for domestic purposes. Also in this bulletin, workers of the Ghana Airport Company Limited invoke cases on management of the company as they kick against what they describe as a scheme to privatize the country's airports. And in business,
Finance Ministry directs all staff to work from home to allow mass testing for COVID-19.
As you can see, the gates have been locked, and it's been locked for the past 24 hours after a memo signed by management directed all workers to proceed in working from home.
Well, we'll be engaging an economist on the implications.
The minority in Parliament is mounting pressure on government to shut all senior high schools across the country following recorded cases of COVID-19 in some schools.
Can be suspended 2 weeks in a row because there is a suspicion that the virus is present. So why are we saying that the students should be in school when their colleagues have tested positive?
Joynews Prime is live on your digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air. We are live also on Go TV channel 144 and DSTV channel 421. Please stay tuned in. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for choosing us. Our very first story, the minority in Parliament is mounting pressure on government to shut all senior high schools across the country following recorded cases of COVID-19 in some schools. According to the Deputy Ranking Member of Parliament's Committee on Education, Dr. Clement Park, students, teachers and staff of the various SHS are currently living in fears over the COVID-19 infections. The call follows the confirmation by the Ghana Health Service and Ghana Education Service that a total of 6 students, a teacher and spouse in the Accra Girls Senior High School have tested positive for COVID-19. The Bolsa South MP said the only solution to prevent widespread of the virus among students is closure of the schools. He is also entreating government to postpone the writing of exams for all final year students to 2021 as adapted by some countries within the sub-region to curtail spread of the virus.
In the wake of COVID-19, many educationists, specialists, stakeholders had all suggested that it was best to close down schools. That was done. But later on, government decided to reopen the schools. When that decision was made, there was a lot of opposition. Now we know that various campuses have recorded infections of COVID-19. The Accra Girls example is but one. The reason why many of you in the media and Ghanaians are not fully apprised about what is going on is because of the restrictions that the ministry through GS has placed. As we know, even parents are not allowed to have access to their wards. Government has said that the reason for the reopening of schools was to prepare the students to take their final exams. Given that at the time the schools were reopened, the case count was only about 12,000. And today we are speaking about a case count in excess of 20,000. We believe, parents believe, the teacher unions believe that the motive for which schools were reopened cannot be achieved. Like other countries which reopened schools and as a result of infections in those schools had to close them down. There's no reason why we can't do that. France did it, Israel did it, Germany did it. Once we now know that the pandemic is present on our campuses, why are we keeping the students there? If cabinet can be suspended 2 weeks in a row because there is a suspicion that the virus is present among higher government officials, so why are we saying that the students should be in school when their colleagues have tested positive? Don't they also deserve the same attention that high government officials are getting.
Clementa Park adds that before closure of the schools, the government should conduct mass testing of COVID-19 for all students and teachers on the various campuses before they allow the students to join their parents at home.
Now that we know that the virus is present on campuses, I think that the best thing would be to test them, which we had requested earlier on, and then let them go home. Because, as I said, the conditions are not conducive. The anxiety, the fear, the emotional torture of being on campus and not knowing what is going on, whether you even have the virus or not. Everyone is being suspicious of the other person. And remember that even the PPEs are not even readily available.
Health authorities in Ashanti region are asking school authorities to follow laid down protocols in the management of COVID-19 in schools. It comes as KNUST Senior High School students accused their teachers of abandoning a final year sick colleague to die for fear of COVID-19. Angered by the development, the students were rampaging on campus and destroyed the school's head's car in the process. The Ghana Education Service has since interdicted the headmistress, Felicia Samuat Dankwa, Regional Director of Health, Dr. Emmanuel Tinkran, and he warns school authorities to intensify efforts to prevent spread of the virus in schools. He tells my colleague Ohim Interior of our health desk, 2 schools have recorded COVID-19 cases in the region.
Have the health authorities working in partnership with Ghana Education Service to make sure that the children are kept in the schools and then they observe the protocols and guidelines. And if somebody is to get the infection even in the schools, all that we will say is that we will isolate that person and then the others will have to adhere strictly to the protocols and then the guidelines. So far in Ashanti region, 2 schools, we've had reports from 2 schools. But even that one, when we did the assessment, we realized that the samples were taken before they came to the school. So the results came while they were in the school. But fortunately for us, they had then spent their 2 weeks. So we assume that they've been discharged. So now we don't have any active case to talk about. Visiting some of the schools, we see that some of the children are becoming difficult. Because when they see the school authorities, then they put on the face mask. When they leave, then they remove them. But that is the challenge. We'll have to tell them why does they need to wear the face mask all the time when they are in the school. Because other than that, you don't know who has been exposed. Because now there's a lot of community spread. So if you don't adhere to the protocols, then it becomes a challenge. But I believe that maybe the school authorities can use the other means. If the numbers are few, you can use the prefects to control them so that the prefects are always with them. They can make sure that at least all the students adhere to the protocols and then the guidelines. The danger is that if the children don't adhere to the protocols and then the guidelines, and somebody is to get infected in the school, it's likely that that person can transmit it to the other children.
Joining me via Zoom is my colleague Ohim Interior of our health desk, who's been monitoring the situation. Ohim, what more can you tell us about the unrest at the KNUST Senior High School and the subsequent arrest?
Thank you, Aisha. For now, calm has returned to the campus of the KNUST Senior High School following the police presence. But the Regional Police Command announced that it will be withdrawing men from the campus, but maintain skeletal force on campus to maintain law and order. That has been done. The calm follows a meeting between the Regional Education Director, Mary, also a child, and the student body of the KNUST Senior High School earlier today. And according to the indication that I got from the meeting, the students were satisfied with the assurances given by the school authorities, the education authorities, to the effect that they will attend to all issues that were mentioned by the students. But since yesterday, when the students went on rampage, they accused the school authorities, especially the teachers, for looking on unconcerned as one of their colleagues struggled to death. And they say this disease, who was formerly a dead student, was admitted into boarding following government directive. he actually came to campus with a medical report indicating that he was an ulcer patient. So it's something that the school authorities were, addressed with. They knew, so they expected school authorities to handle the matter properly. But for what happened, they were angered by the developments, leading them to, go on rampage, destroying a Kia Picanto, a vehicle with registration AS 1127-20, believed to be belonging to the headmistress of the school. But the information I have picked from the Regional Education Directorate is that they can't make any pronouncement on the matter, since the directive to indict the headmistress came from the national office. But they are assured that come tomorrow, the school authorities, the school will begin classes. So classes are scheduled to resume tomorrow once a camp has returned to campus.
Earlier, the Ghana Education Service said it was investigating the matter and that will sanction students who took part in the disturbances. Has such thing happened yet?
For now, that is yet to happen, because the immediate task of the police, for instance, was to maintain calm on campus, as they sent a route control police to maintain calm on campus. Even as at the time we were coming to press, the police officers were still there with route control vehicles, stationed on campus to ensure that students live up to expectation to remain calm. But I must say, yes and no, as of now, I haven't picked information that anybody has been picked, because according to police, it will be too early for them. But still, they are investigating the matter. The Deputy Regional Police Commander, DCOP David Ajimanajem, who led the police officers on campus, assured that police will do everything possible to maintain calm and also to investigate the issue of criminality involved in the rampage. But now, I must say, it is too early yet. That's what police say.
That is my colleague Oheming Teria of our health desk reporting from the KNUST campus, where he's been monitoring events. So other stories, Chief Justice Wesienini Abua has gone into self-isolation for 14 days upon the advice of his doctors in compliance with COVID-19 protocols. A circular from the Judicial Service reads, respectfully, His Lordship, the Chief Justice has from July 6, 2020, on advice of his doctors, embarked on a 14-day self-isolation in compliance with COVID-19 protocols. During this period, His Lordship will be working from the Chief Justice's official residence at Cantonment, Accra, and is signed by Cynthia Pamela Addo. Joseph Akable is our court correspondent, and he joins me via Zoom for more. Joseph, we understand the Supreme Court has suspended cases. How true is that?
And so a number of cases were affected starting from today, and that led to adjournments. Some of them were adjourned indefinitely, while others were adjourned to as far back as July 22. While the adjournment was being carried out, no specific reasons were stated in open court, except that the lawyers and the parties in this case who had come to court were just told that their cases have been adjourned indefinitely, and others were informed that the cases have been adjourned to July 22. And the information from the circulars you read out states that the Chief Justice will be working from his residence at cantonments. The question remains as to how he'll be performing those functions, because we know that as Chief Justice, he performs two functions. The first is that he is a judge of the Supreme Court, and the second being administrative functions as head of the justice administration system. And so we know that the administrative functions has to do with assigning cases and paneling judges to hear a case. Those are functions that could be performed remotely, but it remains to be seen whether he will be sitting on cases as he is required to do as a judge. And the interesting thing is that each time the Chief Justice sits, he presides over the panel. And so as to whether he will be doing so remotely or using technology are all issues that we are looking out for. But the confirmed information we can put out this evening is that a number of cases largely supposed to be taking place this week were adjourned with no official reasons given. Our sources also tell us that a number of staff within the Judicial Service have tested positive and have since been asked to isolate. Not something that happened quite recently, at least Since the outbreak happened in Ghana, some staff have tested positive over the period and have been asked to isolate. And so the judicial service and the justice administration system remains one of those agencies that have been greatly hit by this pandemic, just like many others as well, Aisha.
Joseph Akable is our court correspondent with some updates from the court. We're told that some cases have been adjourned. We'll be following that and bring you updates. And on your election headquarters, the National Democratic Congress says if the Ghana Police Service does not offer protection and ensure the safety of persons who show up at registration centers, it will be forced to advise its members to defend themselves when they are attacked. At a press conference here in Accra, Director of Elections for the party, Elvis Ifriyanka, also stated there is complete breach of COVID-19 protocols at the various registration centers, adding the EC should be held responsible if there is a spike in Ghana's coronavirus cases after the registration exercise. The party also described as sexist and misogynistic comments by the Director of Communications for the NPP, Yaboabian Samoa, and Majority Leader Chairman Sabonso on the selection of Professor Joynews Opoku-Agyeman as running mate for John Mahama.
On Monday, the opposition NDC unveiled Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman as running mate of John Mahama. Hours after the announcement, Director of Communications of the NPP, Yaboabian Samoa, criticized the decision by the party.
We wonder what message candidate Mahama is sending Ghanaians by picking Professor Joynews Opoku-Agyeman as vice presidential candidate, when her stewardship in the past brought such heartache to teachers and trauma to her colleague women.
Majority Leader Chairman Sabonso also cast doubts on the ability of the former UCC Vice Chancellor to fully complement former President Mahama.
Perish the thought. I'm not wishing that in any way. But let's assume that John becomes the president. And tomorrow, and let me emphasize the point, perish that thought. And the next day, he's no longer. Is this woman capable of being described as the President of the Republic?
At a press conference in Accra, Communications Officer of the NDC, Sami Jemfi, described the comments as sexist and misogynistic.
Apart from the sexist and baseless comments of Yaboabian Samoa, the similarly disgraceful comments by the Majority Leader in Parliament that Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman is not capable of being described as President of the Republic of Ghana is one of the most backward and misogynistic statements by a high personality who should know better. Comments such as these are reminiscent of other similarly shameful statements made by President Akufo-Addo when he suggested that Ghanaian women are not dynamic enough at a conference in Canada sometime last year. The worst part of this embarrassment was that he made the comment at an international women's event of all places, where he was scolded and schooled almost immediately by a fellow panelist on stage. Such sexist comments have unfortunately but predictably come to define President Akufo-Addo and his party, the New Patriotic Party.
He has also been debunking some claims made by the NPP at their press conference.
Concerning her plea for clemency for the Muntie trial, the good professor only signed the petition to mitigate the harsh sentences of the 3 convicts after they had served 3 weeks in prison and paid 10,000 each as fines for scandalizing the Supreme Court. Her decision to sign the petition to request for a reduced prison term for the convicts doesn't in any way mean that she endorsed the unfortunate comments as the MPP would have us believe. It must be noted that the woman we are talking about is a responsible and caring mother of 3 and a loving grandmother. Good mothers are known to forgive their children when they go wrong. and after they are disciplined. Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman did not only support the punishment of the Muntie trial through due process, but she also identified with the repentance and remorse shown by the young men.
On his part, Director of Elections of the NDC, Elvis Ifri Ankra, said the President and the EC chairperson should be held responsible if there is a spike in coronavirus cases in the country after the registration. The NDC is also alleging that some of its members were assaulted at some registration centers, adding if the police fails to provide protection for applicants, it will be compelled to ask its supporters to defend themselves when they are attacked.
It appears as if consistently the regular police and maybe the military appear not to be able to deal with these things. We are sending a note of caution. We are peace-loving people. We want to cooperate and collaborate with the police. They should deal with these incidents. If these incidents continue, as long as we will ask our people to go and register, if they continue, we will tell them to defend themselves. Because they have a right to defend themselves. Every citizen, you have a right. If a thief is coming to your house to come and steal your goods or to maim you or hurt you, you have a right to self-defense. We don't want to get there. So we are calling on the police, deal with these things and let us have confidence that you are a neutral police force that is there for all Ghanaians. We have provided more than enough evidence. And all these matters have been reported to the various local police. We want to see what actions they'll take. If these things continue, whilst we'll call on our people to go and register, please don't go and die. We need you alive. Nobody should go and get himself beaten or to get himself killed because of registration. If anybody wants to attack you, take every measure to protect yourself, because this cannot continue forever. So the police, the ball is in your court.
The Electoral Commission has, however, defended its decision to continue with the ongoing voters' ID card registration exercise across the country amidst the coronavirus pandemic. The EC says if calls by doctors and other groups for the suspension of the exercise are anything to go by, then the Commission might as well suspend the December 7 polls. Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jane Mensah, was addressing the maiden edition of the Commission's encounter with the media dubbed Let the Citizens Know. Latif Idris has more in the following report.
2,215,816 people have registered for the voters' ID. That is according to the Electoral Commission at the end of the first batch of the first phase of the exercise. The EC says the number exceeds targets they set for themselves before the exercise started a week ago.
There's a lot of monitoring on our level, and we've sent out monitors into the field who are regularly on updating us. So on every day you have the information, and you can ask that, oh, this person is not doing well, withdraw this person, and so on and so forth. As we mentioned, the target per day was to have been 100 at least, but there's an average of 150, and in some cases you find people who are very exceptional, who are able to do 280 plus.
There have been concerns about overcrowding at the various registration centers, with some, including a team of doctors, petitioning the Electoral Commission to suspend the ongoing exercise over fears of spike in the spread of the coronavirus. But the Electoral Commission disagrees.
We would like for you to help us with feedback, to feedback how to improve upon our processes. Of course, while still asking your questions. But if we ask the questions, should we stop, then I think we should also put aside and go to bed and say that the election should not come on the 7th, and that it should be postponed one more year.
We think at this stage of the process, we don't think it's appropriate to come and answer that question. Is it prudent for us to continue with the one we are mandated to do? I don't know if people are going to ask you, is it prudent for you to eat at this time? So please, media, we want you to support what we are doing. It doesn't suggest that you can just ask. GMA can say whatever they want to ask. But please, when you come here, this is our platform to project the work the Commission is doing. I don't think it's appropriate for you to ask us, is it prudent to continue with our mandate?
The EC says, Let the Citizen Know series, which will happen twice a week.
We believe that this platform would afford us an opportunity to provide timely information on a regular basis to the citizenry. We are confident that by doing so, we will demystify the operations of the Commission and remove the cloaks of secrecy that had hitherto shrouded our work.
Let the Citizen Know series is meant to demonstrate transparency and demystify the Commission's work and also remove the veil of secrecy which has characterized their operations over the years.
Also to come in this bulletin, workers of the Ghana Airports Company Limited invoke cases on management of the company as they kick against what they describe as a scheme to privatize the country's airport. We're back with business shortly.
Welcome back to Joynews Prime. I am Sandra Esinamap and I'm here for business. The Finance Ministry has closed down its offices and asked staff to work from home. This is to pave way for a COVID-19 mass testing exercise. Meanwhile, the ministry is assembling a team of core staff to operate from specific locations as part of preparation towards the mid-year budget review. Charles Aite has more in the following report.
As you can see, the gates have been locked, and it's been locked for the past 24 hours after a memo signed by management directed all workers to proceed in working from home. This follows a mass testing exercise conducted to ascertain COVID-19 cases within the particular center here. Now, when you walk to the entrance of the Ministry of Finance, you get a notice posted on the board, and excerpt of it reads that in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic and as part of measures to ensure the safety of all stakeholders, you are kindly directed to email your correspondence to the address below, and the address given has been correspondence@mofec.gov.gh. So this is the address in terms of correspondence to the general public as well as clients who would want to transact business with the ministry. What we're also learning on the ground is that some of the essential workers within the ministry have been told to work at vantage points around the entire landscape of the ministry. So in as much as they're not in there, some of them, most of them, especially those who are working ahead of the mid-year budget review, have been assigned specific places within the ministries here in Accra to operate. Also, we're learning that various clients who often get to this particular point to interact with most of these essential workers would have to go through strict security protocols. So they get their temperatures checked, they get to wash their hands, they get to social distance before they get interactions of any sort with most of these members. So far, the concerns raised has to do with the impact this could have on traditional business transactions. All right, so this is Cocoa House, the head office of Ghana Cocoa Board, the main regulator of Ghana's cocoa sector, which shows that workers are currently not inside. It's all due to the recent closure of not just this complex, but various subsidiaries of Cocoa Board, as an emergency fumigation exercise currently is underway to protect workers and clients from COVID-19. So far, there are concerns about the impact this could have on Ghana's cocoa sector. But the Chief Executive, Joseph Boyne Edu, in a statement has made it quite clear that they're going to be doing everything virtually. Nothing is going to disrupt the operations. And of course, this fumigation exercise is a temporary measure to address issues and threats of COVID-19. I'm Charles Aita reporting for Joy Business.
We have more on the possible impact of this action on payments for government machineries and also the preparations for the upcoming mid-year budget review in the second part of business. I will be engaging an economist. Away from that, Ghana's digital infrastructure and information system stands highly exposed to unforeseen attacks in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic if emergency measures are not put in place to check the country's cyberspace. This warning is coming from the National Cybersecurity Advisor, Dr. Albert Buakosia. So let me take the name again. Albert Buakosia, sorry, I beg your pardon, as the country experiences significant increase in online activities. More in the following report.
There has been an increase in cyber attacks in the last few months as the COVID-19 pandemic triggers a rise in online business activities. The challenge, however, is the country's readiness to curb the situation. Speaking with Joy Business, National Cybersecurity Advisor Dr. Albert Intribuesiakon admitted that the country would be highly exposed to attacks if emergency measures are not put in place by both government and the private sector.
At the national level, there is a gap we need to address, and the minister has raised serious concern, especially in the era of COVID-19. Ghana risks serious, challenge. There's a serious risk exposure to businesses, to government data, to our digital infrastructure, if we do not scale up our readiness to protect our critical national information infrastructure. And during the lockdown, the only mechanism that allowed us to engage was on digital platforms, right? In fact, that shows the uniqueness, the fact that digital platform now is just, a key mechanism by which life, both productive and even social lives can be achieved.
Dr. Albert Intribuesiakon is urging businesses operating in the country to put in place specific safety measures to safeguard their digital space as government continues to review the protocols and policies on cybersecurity.
Imagine the scale of such attacks on our national infrastructure. And these things have happened before. Ukrainian power systems have been compromised. Romania, their revenue management system, compromised. And that is a real concern that we have as a country. And I think we call on, it's a collective work that we need to do. But of course, government is leading that challenge in terms of revising the policy, in terms of introducing legislation that will incentivize, but also compel businesses to improve their information security programs across board.
The National Cybersecurity Center is an agency under the Ministry of Communications with the aim of securing Ghana's digital journey. The center currently has a 5-year National Cybersecurity Awareness Program dubbed A Safer Digital Ghana to build capacity and create awareness on cybercrime and improve on the country's cybersecurity readiness.
So that was Dr. Albert Intribuesiakon speaking in that report. And in the first part of Business, I'm back after 8 p.m. with more business news update. Thanks for watching.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment with me, Oreku Ampofo. Coming up in the next 5 minutes or so, we'll be first looking at the Youth Employment Agency, as they have signed a memorandum of understanding with the National Sports Authority to pay 500 Ghana cedis monthly stipend to 1,000 athletes. Now, the agreement, which was signed earlier today, is expected to cushion athletes who have faced financial hardships caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Muftar Nabila Abdullah has the rest of the story.
The Youth Employment Agency, in conjunction with the Ghana Olympic Committee and the National Sports Authority, came out with a plan to provide a monthly stipend of 500 Ghana cedis to Ghanaian athletes due to the financial hardships caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The Chief Executive Officer of the Youth Employment Agency, Justin Kodia Frimpong, has been speaking about why they took the decision to support these athletes.
As an employment agency, we have been monitoring the effects of the COVID on several employment in the country and for that matter, the world. One avenue that has been hardly hit by this COVID-19 is our sports fraternity. We know there are several young men and women who see sports as their means of daily livelihood and also earn a living through the various sports disciplines. As an agency mandated to provide job opportunity, also to facilitate job opportunity for the youth of this country. It's our duty to support youth employment in the country. And we know the various sports disciplines are being done or being performed by the youth in the country. So anything that will provide sustainable jobs for the youth, the agency is up for it. And it's also backed by our institutional regulation. Regulation 2 also talks about the models that the agency can run. So this model forms part of our community improvement program, where we want to make sure that at least we better the lives of the young people in this country.
He also revealed that the decision on when to start payment of these athletes would be taken when the National Sports Authority, in conjunction with all the federations in the country, submit the list of athletes to the YEA.
Agreement has been signed. We are expecting the National Sports Authority to meet with the other beneficiaries for them to sit and see how they are going to collate the list for the agents. So we are relying on their time as to how soon they can furnish us with the list. Then YEA, we are ready. So once we get the list, we can take it from there. But as an agency, we are ready.
The 6 months, it still remains 6 months.
Yes, it still remains 6 months. So as in the time that we will get the list, that is when the 6 months effectively starts.
Athletes whose name will be submitted to the YEA are expected to be paid monthly for the next half a year.
To some more sports stories, and the acting chief executive officer of Asante Kotoko, Joseph Yao Edu, has described the current state of the club as disappointing. Now, according to him, the record Ghana Premier League champions have not even got tools to work at the club secretariat. However, he is adamant the newly appointed board will turn the fortunes of the club around. There's more in this report by Mufta Onabula.
The former director of sports for Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology started work officially on Tuesday following the dissolution of George Amwako's management team. Speaking for the first time since assuming his role, he said the current structures do not befit the status of a club like Kotoko.
To be frank with you, Kotoko, as we see it outside, it's a big, and it belongs to the 2-4, so everybody knows that it's a big club indeed. But coming into the office today, I have to confess, I'm a little bit disappointed because it seems the office is not even ready to accommodate a chief executive as of now. His office is as hot as it, so I have to come and sit in the conference room. The staff are also telling me most of the machines that they are using are not in good shape. They are not serviceable, and I've requested that they put all these requests so that forward it to board for us to acquire new machines to run the club, because we are in the modern world. It's not like the old time that they use their hands and tablet. We have to go high tech. So we need all these things. I will recommend and request the board to assist in acquiring all these things for the running of the office.
Despite the state of the club, he and other members of the board came to meet. He is adamant they have the qualities to turn the fortunes of the porcupines around.
Very, very, very doable. My case is doable because
the people I am on the board with are all huge personalities. The board chairman of the Ghana Commercial Bank, which is the richest bank in Ghana, board chairman of the Exim Bank, and 3 more brilliant people have been added to take us a notch higher. Then we have the lady who is also very good. So for the work before us, we can do it for the glory of the club and for us all. Mr. Yao Edu and 11 others were appointed by the life patron of Kumasi Asante Kotoko, Otumfuo Osei Tutu, last month to steer the affairs of the club.
I'll be wrapping up the first segment of sports here on Prime. My name is Rick Wampofo. Do stay up to date and watch out for the second part as I bring you the live scores of the matches currently being played.
And it's time now for Showbiz. Becky's here with the very latest. Hi, Becky.
Hello to you.
Good
How
to
you
see
doing?
you.
Good to see you too, Aisha. Today we have a new musician. I spoke to him earlier today on Let's Talk
Sugar
Showbiz.
Lord.
Sugar Lord, yes.
What about the sugar?
Sugar Lord says that he's realized that Ghanaians don't really promote the music outside, you know,
outside the country.
Outside the country. So he is here to take Ghana music to the rest of the world.
Okay.
I think the Sugar Lord brand and music, I'm for borderless music.
Okay.
Yeah, music that transcends countries and nations, and so I listen to the greats in Africa, the likes of Richard Bona, Salif Keita, you know, those, and so I'm about, you know, right now music has become the language itself, not necessarily the language we speak in the song. You understand? And so we are here, we enjoy Burna Boy, we enjoy Master KG, yeah, we enjoy South African music, yeah. And so right now music in Africa and in Ghana is becoming one. You understand? And then I think the other world, the Western world, realized, no, musically Africa is the future. You understand? Recently you have Beyonce coming down to Africa to do some collabs with some of our music icons we have here. It's because they want to hear something fresh from Africa. I no go lie me, I no go do shakara, oh baby, oh. Only your water go fit to the quenchify, oh baby, oh. I go fit to spending my money, give you cassava, shower my love on you. I go fit to kill the blessing, I go shamayama.
All right, so
Sugar Lord.
All the best taking us up there, but also let's remember about Adepanetone. When you do the music that people really want to listen, and so wherever you go, the people follow you. So let's do that.
So that is the reason why Prince Bright is from the book Back Fame.
Yes.
Remember Prince Bright? Yeah,
sure.
He is advising everyone to create good music. When you have to take time to create the music, that's when people will appreciate
no rush in creating
So he spoke on, you know, a show, and I have that.
Thank you for bringing us showbiz back, and that'll be it for those of you watching on Joy Prime. The news returns on Joy News. And to the rest of our stories, government is fighting back claims that 90% of dams constructed for irrigation purposes can be used only for domestic activities. Minister of State at the Food and Agriculture Ministry, Dr. Nura, describes the conclusion as false, misleading, and further questions the motive behind the research conducted by the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, led by Professor Joseph Yaro of the Department of Geography at the University of Ghana. The research revealed poor consultation and coordination, which led to poor supervision of the project. It concludes that most of the dams can be classified as domestic use or livestock dams, but not for farming. Well, government has a response to all the issues raised, but first listen to this report by correspondent Albert Sori.
The Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, with funding from Oxfam, commissioned the research to examine the implementation of the One Village, One Dam initiative in the Upper East region. The study aimed to, among other things, establish the number of dams constructed within the region, examine the appropriateness of the dams in serving domestic and agricultural purposes, and determine the usefulness of the dams in addressing the water requirement of the beneficiary communities during the dry seasons. The research, which was led by Professor Joseph Yaro of the Department of Geography at the University of Ghana, established that so far, 83 out of the 140 dams promised by the government have been completed. This represents 59%. Professor Joseph Yaro gave some details of the findings of the research.
People were not really involved in one site selection, into the kind of dam, 3, the kind of uses that it was going to eventually be for, and 4, the kind of safety concerns and environmental impacts it will have on them. These were things that were not considered. Normally, when we have projects like this, we do environmental and social assessments, and these were taken for granted and left out. And that subsequently has come to haunt us, as people have realized as dams have been abandoned, and the little land that families had, which were given out, have become degraded lands that they cannot use.
He said about 90% of the dams constructed under the One Village, One Dam initiative in the Upper East region cannot be used for irrigation purposes.
Some communities had a better geology for a much bigger dam, but because they are limited to only 250,000, such a dam could not be put up. So then we think that it will be much more useful in the future if we aggregated the sums and did dams in places where dams are possible. So irrigation really is out of the question for probably 90% of the dams.
The Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana's research also touched on the key issue of the amount of money allocated for the construction of each dam and whether the amount was enough to construct good quality dams. Andrew Alalbila is an engineer with the Ghana Irrigation Development Authority who were interviewed as key informants in the research.
For one to construct a very meaningful and a very dam that will serve the purposes of irrigation, that money will not be enough.
The Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana has also made some recommendations to the government based on the findings of their research. Abdul Rahman Mohammed is national president of the association.
We are calling on government to revisit that project and make sure that they are well renovated and they are well structured, and then so that the farmers will use them, or else they can't use them.
It remains to be seen whether government will improve on the size and quality of dams constructed under the One Village, One Dam initiative. For Joynews, Albert Sori reporting from Bolgatanga.
At a news briefing today, Minister of State at the Agric Ministry, Dr. Nura, first addressed the issue of the quality of dams constructed, accusing the research of lacking understanding of what he describes as modern multi-purpose dams.
The only thing he has not told us is what the objective of his research. If the objective of his research is to criticize, he will go when you have just started the dams and start telling you that there is no water in the dams. If his objective is to assist in government development projects, that to give a bedside view to a policymaker of the progress of the work is also a different thing. If you go to a place, dams are developed where we have valleys and where we have streams or rivers flowing. If you don't have a river flowing through your village, it's not possible to have a dam. And where rivers flow, there is a slope. And that's why it's possible for a dam to be constructed. And let me answer the major question that is coming up, that 90% of the small dams that we are constructing under the One Village, One Dam are not suitable or cannot be used for irrigation. The answer is false. We are now in a modern era of irrigation. People are making this pronouncement based on the fact that the only irrigation they know is gravity irrigation. You go and open the dam, the valve in the dam, so that the water will flood the area and they irrigate. That type of irrigation is grossly inefficient, because when you open the water, you have no way to control it again. The irrigation systems are three. We have the gravity irrigation, where the dam is on the higher side, you open and the water runs by gravity. Then we have the sprinkler irrigation, the one that goes around and sprinkles the water. But that one, you must be using a pump. Then we have a drip irrigation. So for somebody to say it's not suitable for irrigation, the question is, on what basis is he judging? It's not suitable for, if it's not suitable for drip, gravity, can't you do drip? Can't you do sprinkler? That's one question. I cannot, because I don't know the basis upon which he said that. But my speculation is also that, as I explained, he had gone to a field as a researcher, seen some of the water that is there in May or in June, and says that, no, this cannot be used for irrigation, which everybody will come to that conclusion. But I'm saying, when was the dam finished? Or is it even completely finished? What was his categorization? That how many can be used, how many cannot be used? Or is it a general principle that all of the dams cannot be used? It can be possible.
He also gave an update of progress work done so far on the dams, stressing 88 out of the 437 promised have been completed for use.
That is for the 437 that have been awarded. I said that 30 of them are up to 50% completion. That means some are lower than 50%. 69 of them are between 50 and 89% completion. And 339 are between 90% and 100% completion. Then I added a total embankment wrapped with stones and boulders is 88. So those you can consider 100%. When the stones have been wrapped and those things. Each constituency has at least 10. There are 57 constituencies. Upper West has 11 constituencies. So multiply by the 10.
Let's now get some response from the lead researcher, Professor Joseph Yaro, and Charles Nyaba, who is also a peasant farmer. Now, first, within what period did you undertake the research, Prof?
To your listeners, thanks very much for inviting me to share part of our research findings. And this research, so first of all, let me just run through quickly what the objectives of our research was for. In the first place, this was a monitoring exercise that the Peasant Farmers Association decided to undertake, because the Peasant Farmers Association considered the project, the initiative, as a very laudable one. Their members have been very happy and excited about it. Their interactions with the district assemblies and with other stakeholders find this project a very useful one. So as a result, they decided that in order to be able to help government in achieving the objectives of this initiative, they should do a monitoring exercise and provide the evidence and advice that is needed to then make sure that this project provides the kind of usefulness that the rural people need. Now, so we decided that we wanted to find out the numbers of dams that are constructed within our study area so far. We wanted to examine how appropriate these dams were in meeting the following: 1, domestic purposes; 2, livestock; 3, agriculture. And then we wanted to establish also the environmental effects so far of what we have. We know this is at a nascent stage, so most of the things that we will find would still be at an initial stage. We probably would need 2 years to elapse before we talk about an evaluation. So this is not an evaluation, it's simply a monitoring exercise telling us how the projects are progressing, right? What has gone on so far, and what do people think about this? And for those on the ground, how have they been involved in these projects? How happy are they with them? Then at the end, we also visited existing dams that were constructed way back in 70s, 80s, 90s, even in the 90s, to compare this with the new dams that are coming up, to see how communities were benefiting from this, what challenges they had even with the old dams, as to inform the construction and the usefulness of these new dams, which we think already should have been done before these new dams were supposed to be constructed. So we visited 24 dams, 24 communities where the dams were constructed. As you know, there are 89 dams that have been constructed. These 89 dams, we picked these figures from the various district offices, from ID officials, from district assemblies. That gave us the 89. And then out of the 89, we decided that our resources could enable us visits to 24 of them. So we visited 24 communities with 24 dams. And we held focus group discussions with community members and with small farmers who belong to the Peasant Farmers Association. Then also we decided that this was a government thing, therefore we needed to talk to government officials. And the following categories of expert interviews were conducted with district assembly officials, with IDA staff, Irrigation Development Authority staff, with the agriculture engineering officer for each district, and with the district Department of Agriculture, some of them being the district directors of agriculture. So our information is not pedestrian. The data we have, the interviews we have, and take note, this is qualitative. So we have transcripts, we have all the, what we won't do is we will not disclose the names and what of you of our respondents.
Now, government says you will not find much water looking at the period of the research, because the rainy season actually it's around June and September in the north?
Yes, so we went in January and February, and we went for dams that were constructed earlier on. So there were not dams that are being constructed this year, right? So, there are many partially constructed dams which we were not interested in because they are partially constructed dams, right? If you construct a dam in the previous year, right, you should expect that, and these are not big dams. Much bigger dams will take a longer time to fill up. So these are dams that were constructed last year and therefore had all the rainy season for last year to fill up. And we are not interested, and take note, we are not experts of dams. So we are basically, what we are presenting are the voices of the stakeholders, the voices of village leadership, of farmers, of agricultural officers, of extension officers, of the directors of agriculture in the districts. These are not our voices, and that is what it is.
Let me bring in Charles Nyaba here. Charles, what's the reality on the ground from where you sit as a peasant farmer?
Hello?
Charles Nyaba, you're on Joynews Prime, and I'm asking what the reality is on the ground. I mean, as a peasant farmer, you go to the field all the time. What do you see from where you sit?
Thank you so much. Please, can you hear me?
Very well. I can hear you very well.
Yeah. You know, as an association, we represent smallholder farmers in the country. So when the government announced that they were doing one village, one dam, we were actually happy. And as part of our mandate, we needed to know whether the dams were going to serve the purposes of our members or not. It is the reason we commissioned the research. I listened to the minister said that what was the objective of the research. Actually, we are key partners in terms of agriculture development projects because these projects are targeting us. So anytime government announces any project that has to do with agriculture, we are so much interested in knowing how the projects are going to benefit our members. Now, upon visiting the project sites where the dams were constructed, initially most of our members had high expectations. They were happy that the dams were coming because during dry season, most of the youth and the young ladies have to travel to down south to look for non-existing jobs. So they all thought that when the dams are properly constructed, they'll be able to do dry season farming. But when we visited them, most of them were disappointed because on few dams that were constructed could not hold in water. If you go to a place like Kajulu in the Kasnan and Kana East district, the first rain that came washed away the embankment of the dam. You go to Cabre in the Bongo district, where the dams were straightened, no farming activities could take place. There's another dam at Boko in a community called Las Ghana. That place, the dam is already washed away. So most of the dams were not actually serving the purpose. Apart from the fact that the dams were not properly constructed, there were no canals, there were no reservoirs. So it means that the dams cannot be used for irrigation purpose. Now, the minister also said that the dams we were expecting
Let me bring in Professor Yaro as we try to get Charles Nyaba back. Prof, government says what it has done is a multi-purpose one, which you lack understanding of how it operates. How do you respond to this?
I would like to be educated on what the term multi-purpose is. I thought rather they would have said that each of the dam probably served a particular specific purpose. I mean, that would have been much more. I mean, already Charles told you that for most dams, that the validation, actually what we had in Bolga was a validation workshop. It wasn't the our final report. And the validation workshop was basically to get the views of people we had talked to earlier on, the farmers, the chiefs, the community members, the irrigation authorities and assemblies, to tell them what our report contained, so that if they found anything that was misleading, they could correct it. That is why we had all those stakeholders there. Now, they all agreed, they all attested to the fact that for most of the dams, I think, you see, what we have to take note of is, and we are cautious in our choice of terms, most of the dams, we are not saying all the dams, for most of the dams, they had small reservoirs. And a small reservoir simply means that if you want to use that water for many purposes, it will not go that far.
I'm grateful for your time. Professor Joseph Yaro is with the University of Ghana, and he is the lead researcher. Charles Nyaba is president of the Ghana Peasant Farmers Association. He joined us earlier in that conversation. This is a conversation we've started. We'll continue and get to the bottom of it. Stay on the Joynews channel for all of that. Now, workers on the Ghana Airports Company Limited are kicking against what they describe as a scheme to privatize the country's airports. The group alleged government through the aviation ministry has plans to hand over Ghana's airport to a Turkish investor. The workers picketed at the Kotoka International Airport and vowed to resist any move to hand over management to foreign investors. Joynews' Henry Kwesibedu has more.
Workers from Kumasi, Tamale, and Accra chant songs expressing their displeasure over alleged plans to privatize all government airports in the country. After chanting, they also started invoking curses on management of the airport. They are accusing management of being in bed with the aviation ministry to hand over the Ghana Airports Company Limited to the Turkish investors. Workers say they cannot understand why the government will want to privatize the airport.
I beg, this is my son. This is where I eat and this is how I feed them. I beg, if whoever or whatever plans they have, they should leave this airport because that is the only job we know.
So as workers, what is your plan? What are you going to do?
We are stating this straight, that one, to the head of our company, and then to our minister. If our father, who is the head here, director, knows that he loves his children, anything that comes, he will call our union and call us as well. And address to us. We have no clue. It means whatever it is to them and then the ministry and then the government. And this is not fair to us. So we are saying, MD will go. The minister, I think he's already on his way. MD Kwakwa is going.
Almond Korte is a member of the Senior Staff Union and has worked with the Ghana Airport for 18 years. He believes the move is unnecessary and must be aborted.
It's not necessary, you understand? You know, if a private man comes in, obviously the salary structure will change. Benefits will cease. Are you getting me? So we don't need it at all. The bone of contention, yes. We don't need any partnership thing. Yes.
Are you going to fight this with your last blood until?
Yes, please. Not me alone, all staff, all general staff. We are very serious.
Executives of the Trade Union Congress say they will meet with management to find a lasting solution to the concerns of workers, adding a Ghanaian company is capable of equally managing Ghana's airports, as it has always been the case. Bernard Ejay is General Secretary of the Public Service Workers Union of the TUC.
We have heard you. We have heard you. Your executives have told us. So when we go to the negotiation, we are going to advance your position. And that position is that the airport can be run by Ghanaians, and it will be run by Ghanaians. And therefore, we will allow the process to go on. We are going to represent you as we have always done and more.
Although the Aviation Ministry has denied any move to hand over Ghana's airports to foreign investors, the workers say they will fight the alleged takeover with all their strength. Henry Kwesibedu's report for Joynews.
Minority in Parliament has described the increase of 15% on transport fares as insensitive on the part of government. According to the minority spokesperson on roads and transport, Kwame Agboja, government should use part of the 17 million cedis approved by Parliament to mitigate effects of COVID-19 on the economy, to subsidize taxes on petroleum products to minimize the hardships on commercial drivers. The Adaklu MP urged government to ensure proper utilization of funds approved by Parliament.
Not too long ago, you will notice that the government increased the tax on petroleum products, not because petroleum product prices have gone up on the international market. That effect is still being felt. We also noticed that the exchange rate in terms of CD versus the international trading currencies have gone up. Today, the dollar is trading about 6 cedis. What it means is that the price of spare parts for vehicles has gone up. Thirdly, commercial drivers, because of COVID, can't carry full load in terms of passengers because of social distancing. So there's almost triple jeopardy that commercial drivers who earn a living by doing what they do are suffering already. So for us to wake up for the prices to be 15%, you cannot blame the commercial drivers, because otherwise it is not even worth them driving out of their houses. Fuel prices have gone up on the account of government deliberate decision to increase taxes, not because of price of crude oil on the international market. 2, prices of spare parts have gone up and continue to go up.
Kwame Agboja also accused government of gifting the 600 million stimulus package meant for small and medium-scale enterprises to NPP branch executives at the constituency level. According to him, NPP branch executives who are not qualified for the stimulus packages have been given 2,000 Ghana cedis each.
We expected government to actually use part of the interventions that we made in this house, the IMF $1 billion, the 10 billion Ghana cedi from, Bank of Ghana, to cushion commercial drivers as well. But what I noticed, for instance, when I go to my constituency is this. The NPP is sharing some forms to the NPP party people and distributing about 2,000 cedis to them on some unknown basis, that these people are businessmen or business people who are being supported. I thought those monies are supposed, the 600 million I'm talking about, to go to people whose business can be traced. That you are a fully registered business with the Registrar General, you've been paying your taxes. But I encourage you to go to the communities. You'll notice that MPP branch executives are being given 2,000 cedis for out of this money.
The NBISS money?
I don't know where this is coming from, but they are paying through, they give them some form, you fill, and the money is transferred to your mobile money account.
We'll take a break on Joynews Prime. When we return, there is more.
Welcome back to business. Vodafone Ghana has invested in fiber broadband as a new measure to solve the cable cut challenges. The move, according to the company, will also ensure that customers on the fiber broadband get the best internet experience, which is an upgrade from the previous system. Chief Executive of Vodafone Ghana, Patricia Obotnai, told Joy Business that the cable cut has caused a huge loss to both the company and customers.
Fiber speeds are 10 times better than what you get on copper. So the transformation is significant, because at the moment people don't have time. They are doing their work at home. They need to move quickly. The children need to study. Most of the classes are face-to-face and online. The teacher is speaking. So you cannot afford to have slow internet at times like this, which is why reliable service and a faster speed is basic. And that is why we are actively doing this for our customers. As I said, this transformation started about a year ago. The reason why this is significant is that it covers one of the largest areas that we have done so far. So it's in the tens of millions of dollars, not tens of millions of dollars. And that is why, for me, it is a significant presentation that we have to do to Ghana to say Vodafone is here to stay. We are here to invest. We are here to make a difference in the lives of our customers. So that when they cut the fiber, it doesn't just affect the broadband customer, it affects my mobile as well. Because don't forget, we have a lot of the mobile on 4G, and 4G we are writing a lot of that on fiber. So when you cut the fiber, you affect my mobile customers, and from January to now, 2.3 million customers have been affected because of fiber cuts. So it is significant, and that is why I'm making the appeal that when people see our cable, just like they get alerts when they see water oozing out of the Ghana water pipes or they see an electricity cable, they should treat telecom cable as an essential service. It is a critical national asset.
In other news tonight, intense cultivation of cashew threatened biodiversity in forest zones. We have details plus more in the business news summaries.
The Association of Local Mining Contractors has called for government's intervention in the high permit fees being charged by the Minerals Commission on their members. According to the association, the over 500% increase in the charges was abnormal and needed the intervention of the government to prevent businesses in the sector from total collapse. The Ghana Stock Exchange has approved the delisting of PZ Cassins from the stock market following the review of offer documents to initiate the process. At the end of the process, this will raise the total number of companies delisted from the Bourse to 6 over the past 3 years, some voluntary, some enforced. This will reduce the number of companies listed on the Bourse to 31. The rapid production of cashew in the country, especially within the forest transition zone, is consuming sizable farmlands and thus posing a threat to sustainable production of food crops in the country's food basket. The new law for cashew cultivation by farmers in the Bno and Ahafo regions is fast shrinking farmlands for the production of other food crops.
Now, leading wax print company GTP has added some color in these dark moments, documenting the major events of the coronavirus pandemic in line with different designs. In the following report, Charles Aite has seen them all, and he reports that you can also see what they are doing. And with regards to some of their designs, which has become a cash cow and also talk of town.
Textiles, they say, imprint the experiences of memorable events in our lives, be they exciting or gloomy as the coronavirus. Here in Ghana, a leading local textile firm, GTP, is giving a positive narrative to the coronavirus pandemic. Chronicling national events from the lockdown to the various presidential updates, I sat with Stephen Bedu, head of sales for GTP.
With the onset of COVID-19, the challenge we sought to address was, how do we tell the story of COVID-19 in a positive light? How do we put a positive twist to something as accursed as COVID-19? So we challenged our creative team to the task to say, guys, what do we do?
A lot has changed since Ghana recorded its first COVID-19 case. The emergence of lockdown measures and the restriction in movement have sent businesses gasping for survival. Interestingly, these measures have had a positive turn on the local textile industry, hitherto exposed to the illegal proliferation of fake textiles into the local market from especially China and Nigeria. This is going to be the design room where all the magic happens. This is where all the magic happens. These creatives are the brains behind the 3 popular textile designs in the Ghanaian market. Fellow Ghanaians, Lockdown and Nana Spectacle. Oh yeah, you heard right.
Our President, His Excellency Nana Addo, you would notice that every time he addresses the nation, his salutation was always fellow Ghanaians. That was the first phrase you would hear. And it runs through all his speeches to the nation. And we thought this was a nice phrase to name the design which we're going to introduce, and therefore we came up with fellow Ghanaians.
Bismek Eduasare oversees the creative desk of GTP. He walked me through the hidden details of these popular COVID-19 textiles.
This was, in our mind, the first measure that was taken. It was a stay-home measure. It was everybody being indoors. So we find chains and padlocks to the chains. So it was like we were all shut in at the beginning, the middle of March up to April.
So this one has to do with the
airports being locked.
The restrictions on air movements.
Air movements, okay. So you see fans like the airplane fan blazed. with the padlocks attached to them. Sort of no-fly zone or restriction of passengers. And that Nana here was the brain behind.
Nana was the brain behind it. Okay, Nana. So what made you bring all these things together to symbolize the restriction on air movement?
Oh, okay, what we heard was there was a lockdown around the airports and then the borders and then the various shops have to be locked down.
In trying to depict it, what we did was that for one concept, we took his most favorite classic design, that is Hein Pankasa, and put in the glasses, which has become iconic for our commander-in-chief, and put the two together to create this wonderful design. This was also the brainwork of Dede, and it came out really nice. And we're amazed about the response. It's not just about the revenue. It's getting every Ghanaian to own a part of this year. So that, as you rightly said, to posterity, we would have a story to tell. And that is more value to us. And in doing that, we also sell the brand name GTP.
The popular Fellow Ghanaians print was created by Franklina Dedenate. This design has glasses on them, similar to the signature ones worn by Ghana's President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who's been given regular updates on the virus. How do you feel as a girl?
I feel very great and happy because at least I'm seeing people are liking it and they're also buying it. So I feel very happy about it.
The new fabrics have symbols like padlocks, keys, and planes to reflect some of the measures implemented to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Wax prints are popular in Ghana. Many office workers wear them on Fridays. Demand for these collections have skyrocketed, and for a textile company previously struggling to stay afloat, not more than 100,000 yardages of textiles hit the market daily, thanks to COVID-19.
Interesting designs by GTP, and that was a report by Charles Ait. The price of gold has hit highest level since 2011. The commodity sold today for $1,810.50 an ounce after gaining 0.87% profit. The details is in the commodity news. Before I go, let me remind you that the Finance Ministry has closed down its offices and asked staff to work from home until further notice. This is to pave way for a COVID-19 mass testing exercise. The ministry has also assembled a team of core staff to operate from specific locations as part of preparations towards the mid-year budget review. We're supposed to speak to an economist on this development. We are unable to bring you that. We'll do that in our subsequent bulletins. My name is Sandra Esina Mapeno. Thanks so much for your time. Log on to myjoyonline.com/business for more business news update. Thanks so much for watching.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the second part of the sports segment with me, Oriku Wampofo. We do continue with some local stories where the president of the Ghana Football Association, Keto Kreku, says that the agreement signed between the Youth Employment Agency and the National Sports Authority is indeed a game changer. He was speaking at the signing ceremony earlier today, as he said that football cannot strive without government support. Meanwhile, the president of the Ghana Olympic Committee, Benunu Mensah, warned that the package is not a job for the boys. My colleague Muftar Nabula Abdullahi was there and filed this report.
The signing of the agreement between all parties involved in the YEA's decision to provide a 500 Ghana cedi stipend to athletes, president of the Ghana Football Association, Kurt Edwin Simeon Okrako, described the agreement as a game-changing signing. According to him, football cannot strive without the support of government.
This is a game changer. I'm saying this is a game changer, especially for football, and especially for women's football. We have 16 women Premier League clubs in Ghana who play for free. They don't earn FOCO. Meanwhile, for the larger Ghanaian populace, Everybody believes they earn money, for which reason there's enormous pressure on these girls to always take care of their extended families. Today, through what I've always preached since I became the president of the FA, and what have I been preaching? The Football Association and government always need to have what I call a sexy relationship. There's nowhere in the world that football has become what it is, for which reason we all run to consume, without the tacit and express contribution of government toward the development of the sport. Today, this is a firm confirmation of what I've always preached.
President of the Ghana Olympic Committee, Ben Nunu-Mensah, who has been at the forefront of the negotiations, called on all sporting federations to be accountable in delivering monies due the athletes whose names were represented.
Shouldn't seem to be another job for the boys thing. I have been involved from day one on the negotiation and then trying to put a document together for this. And I know that everybody involved has good intentions, especially the YA chief executive. The little advice I'll give is that if we could, in compiling the list, we could ask the national federations to write on their own letterhead signed by the president of the national federation. It is an advice I gave during the discussion to put together a document. I hope that if we can stick to that, it will take a lot of doubts in people's mind. It would also make sure that whatever list is brought to you, that list, we can hold the National Federation president accountable if we happen to find names of people who are not otherwise in sports.
Ghana Football Association Executive Council took a decision to hand the package to the 16 elite women's Premier League clubs. 500 people within this sector are expected to benefit from the package.
But that would be wrapping it up for the sports segment here. My name is Ray Kwampofo, and do remember to always stay safe.
And it's time for the interactive segment. You know how to join the conversation on all our social media platforms. But you've been following the conversation where people are asking for the EC to hold the registration exercise. Well, in a response, Jean Mensah, who is the electoral commissioner, says if we really want to hold this exercise, we must as well hold the December 7 polls. We posted this on our Facebook page. Let's look at the comments coming in. Is generated 106 comments, 29 shares, and 175 likes. Plans Victor says simple as that. Let's suspend or postpone the elections. Coronavirus will still be with us in December, and the concerns raised now will still be there then. Good thing about this process is the very fact that this could serve as a platform to identify challenges we're likely to face in December with the electioneering processes, the gadgets, and most importantly, how to deal with the effective and efficient implementation of COVID-19 precautionary measures and protocols. Dodu says, I'm still waiting for the agenda setters. And in bracket, he says civil society organizations to advocate for the postponement of the 2020 elections and to coronavirus leaves shores. Senior Kwejo Champon says it's one of the reasons why we need a constitutional review to make the provision for postponement of elections. This year's elections should have been postponed, but because of constitutional crisis, we have to endure it. We need to review the constitution, especially on the powers of the presidency. Mimi Do Teria says our lives are more important. What happens if we don't go out to vote? Well, that's a question that deserves an answer. Kwesi Kwatin Jr. says such arrogant response. If there were limited registration, we wouldn't have this entire issue. And if things were managed properly, we would have gone down to very few cases that would have made our December elections much safer. But you didn't listen. You are now asking for help. Incompetent EC. Bukari Bashiru says, just because of your 30% token, you agree to put the lives of innocent Ghanaians at risk. Ask the senior minister today and many other people living with COVID-19, and they will tell you how it feels to enrich yourself with the taxpayers' money and contract the virus at the end. James Tei says, bam. I think this is what some people want. Let's think deep because this virus is not going to end now. So if you say there should not be new registration, then there wouldn't be voting. Wilberforce says, so because of elections, people should get infected? Oh, Ghana. Some people make blind arguments that some African countries have already conducted the election, but they forget Ghana's COVID-19 cases are different in numbers. It's very sad. And Hassan Abdullah says, we'll use the old card. The election is one day. And Ekwe Free says, you're doing a good job, madam. Keep it up. COVID-19 has come to stay. We should adhere to the precautionary measures. And Joy Agbe says, you mean we can't use the old register when the need arises? You truly be manipulated. And those are your comments on our social media platform. There is more on my Joy Online if you log on there. And that'll be it for the bulletin also tonight. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for watching. And on behalf of the rest of the production team, have a good one. And PM Express.